Okay, that's our usual 5-second lead time into LinkedIn. Welcome to another episode of All Things TAC. We are live streamed on both LinkedIn and the All Things TAC YouTube channel. I am your host, Zev Nadler, and we have an exciting panel today, chock full of TAC SMEs and practitioners. Before I introduce them, I'd like to mention a few TAC-worthy news events. Firstly, Martin Simard of CloudTAC up in Canada presented the Canadian Cloud TAC at TAC Offsite 2025 in Washington. He gives gratitude to Corey Foy, who made space during the public safety session, giving him 30 minutes to showcase their work. This has resulted in some great traction across both the military and public safety communities, and it looks like we'll be seeing a lot more successes in the Great White North. You can watch this presentation at a URL that I'm going to put up shortly on the comment section. As well, Drone Responders, who is the leading nonprofit advancing public safety use of UAS, has announced a new TAC working group and has selected us, UAS Strategic, my team, to develop and support a TAC server solution that will also be chock full of great content to include the Reverend of TAC, AJ's awesome video content. It'll also have ConOps, SOPs from well-integrated agencies like Texas DPS and more. My partner in crime, Tim Reed of Adeptus, is actually hosting the server. If you want to get on it, get on LinkedIn and send me a message. Until such time as Drone Responders has a link up on their website, the best way for you is to get me on direct message on LinkedIn, and I'll ask you a few questions. We'll generate your certs and send it off to you. Okay, having said that, let me introduce our panelists. I'm just going to give a brief introduction of each one, and then we'll go right into a great conversation. So Abram Gallegos represents CTI, where he is the manager of the Solutions Support Group. He possesses an impressive career spanning over 19 years of combined military, government, civilian, and defense contracting within the tactical communications and operations area. Abram's expertise spans multiple domains, including network technologies and a wide array of communication systems, including space-based, terrestrial, and covert comms, as well as shipboard navigation and radar systems. Prior to joining CTI, Abram's career began with his active duty service in the U.S. Navy, where he served as a naval special warfare tactical communications operator. In this role, he played a pivotal part in instructing, operating, and supervising tactical communications, directly contributing to advanced C4ISR systems operation and close air support in arduous combat environments for Navy Special Ops and Combined Joint Operation Forces globally. Thank you very much, Abram, and welcome. Next is Nate Sowell. He is a technical fellow with RTX BBN, where he leads the TAC Applications Lab. In this role, he helps develop the Team Awareness Kit, TAC, and helps extend and apply it to real-world challenges. For more than a decade, he and his team have developed dozens of TAC plugins for public safety, the Department of Defense, and commercial organizations. He leads development of multiple public safety and critical communications efforts in search and rescue, incident management, and alerting and communication systems. He's a frequent speaker around the globe on TAC and related advanced technology topics. He holds a Master's of Science in Computer Science from Boston U and a Bachelor's of Science in Computer Science from Tufts University. Welcome, Nate. Next up, we have Mike Teigen, who joined the BBN in May 2025 to lead the TAC Ops team. He is a former FBI computer scientist and FBI TAC lead with 15 years operational experience, including comms lead for the FBI's hostage rescue team and over 10 years TAC experience. Mike architected, built, and ran the FBI's TAC Situational Awareness Program that saw a widespread rollout of TAC use across the Bureau to support over 21,000 users in every domain. Mike also integrated UAS, CUAS, sensors, radios, and other GEOINT systems into TAC while working for the FBI's surveillance aviation section. He's an expert in TAC, mesh radios, tactical video, and federal law enforcement operations. Mike holds a master's in cybersecurity from NYU and a bachelor's in technical management, as well as 2 AAS degrees, one of which is robotics. Welcome, Mike. Ken Reben is a principal analyst at CritCom Insights and is the CIVTAK25 conference organizer, which we're going to learn all about today. As a wireless technology analyst, Ken delivers industry analysis addressing changes in mobile broadband network evolution, like LTE and 5G, critical communications group voice, like 3GPP, mission critical push to talk, DMR, Tetran, Project 25, mobile enabled situational awareness solutions like digital command, ATAC, ITAC, WinTAC, and so on. He also works within the public protection and disaster relief spectrum and public safety industrial Internet of Things. Ken combines decades of experience in datacom technology with an extensive background as a former 911 dispatcher and paramedic. He is currently an active firefighter EMT with Montgomery County Fire and Rescue Services in Bethesda. Welcome, Ken. Jared Vandenheuvel is the Director of Public Safety Solutions for the Texas Department of Public Safety. In this role, he develops agency strategy for situational awareness tools and interoperable communications for identifying and piloting public safety technology and enterprise solutions, and fosters partnership with other government agencies, academia, and industry. Jared's team manages the Texas TAC program, which hosts dozens of Texas public safety agencies for multi-agency operations and emergency response. In his previous roles at DPS, he has worked as an intelligence analyst and a coordinator for technology projects such as air-to-ground video downlink, border sensor networks, and video analysis software. Jared is a U.S. Army veteran and holds a bachelor's in political science from Arizona State University and a master's in operations management from the University of Arkansas. Welcome, Jared. Our next guest, Corey, is well known to everybody. I'm not even going to bring up anything about him because we all know who he is and what great things he does. So, Corey, welcome. And I'm going to start with you and ask you to tell us about TAC Public Safety and the relationship in that with CIVTAK25.
Thanks, Ev. Yeah, so thanks everybody for having me. The specific context that I think we're talking about is in August of last year, we launched a nonprofit called TAC Public Safety. And the reason for that, I think, is that we've seen so much use of TAC over the past several years continue to grow and continue to scale. And I think what we've seen out of this is a phenomenal opportunity to create a common operating picture across state, local, federal, and national teams that are approaching things. I'm based here in North Carolina. We had Hurricane Helene come through just over a year ago. We've had Hurricane Milton hit Florida, and then all the way down to Kerr County with the floods there. What we see in a lot of these incidents is this notion of we're going to rapidly expand past one team or one department or even one county responding to these things. And whenever we have that, the proprietary tools that different agencies have, whether that's law enforcement or fire or task forces or FEMA or anything like that, tend to create some real big challenges with data integration, with situational awareness, with those kinds of things. And so our bet on this has been that the power of TAC, as these amazing people who are on here can talk about, from an open source, from an open protocols and an open data perspective, and the cost is great too for it, really enables a level of integration that I don't think we've been able to get with anything else, that has just exploded in growth within the public safety realm of it. And as we get into things like the FIFA World Cups happening next year, and these other large scale events where we have to bring a lot of people from disparate departments and disparate groups all together into one common operating picture, TAC, and the reason we brought TAC Public Safety around is it is an amazing tool to be able to let people use their tools that work for them and then pull data into a common operating picture. So to support that, again, we established this nonprofit back in August. And the other thing, and Ken is here as well, he can talk a lot about this, is that we are running the CIVTAK conference specifically to talk about how TAC works for the civilian side of it, not just for the military DoD side of things, but really how it's expanding in use from, day to day of Texas, and their day-to-day people, to the New York City Marathon or the Boston Marathon, to these blue sky incidents, whether it's a shooting or a flood or those kinds of things. So yeah, hopefully that explains a little bit of why I personally am so passionate about this notion of TAC and bringing it to our public safety agencies around the US. You're muted, Zev.
Thank you. I was typing a bit. Ken, that might be a good segue for you to give us a little bit more information on CIVTAK25.
Yeah, thank you so much for organizing this, Zev. And Corey, thank you for the introduction to the TAC Public Safety nonprofit. Last year, 2024, I launched a conference on TAC in the civil sector. So CIVTAK24 out at Dulles Airport. And wow, I was blown away by the take up, the attendance at the event. We had a fabulous program with people from all over the world who are working to deploy TAC in the civil sector. Law enforcement, fire rescue, search and rescue, just a fantastic community. So we're continuing it. This year, however, the conference is being held under the auspices of the TAC Public Safety nonprofit that thought leaders in the TAC community, including Corey, have established. The event will be taking place on November 4, 5, and 6 in Washington, D.C. It's on 14th Street, halfway between Metro Center and the White House. We've got a lovely conference facility. It is going to be capped in terms of attendance. So be sure, if you're interested in coming and sitting down with the thought leaders in the TAC public safety sector, get your registrations in. There are limited seats available. There's lots of information up on the web right now, CIVTAK25.com. And Zev will have that linked in the show notes following this stream. Program development is underway. We've had almost 40 submissions from the thought leaders in the TAC ecosystem, and we're building out the program. It should be available beginning in October. You'll see exactly how the agenda is shaking out. In the agenda, you will have case studies, success stories of how TAC has been deployed in the civil sector to solve problems. We will have discussions on the evolving technical nature of TAC. TAC it's a fairly complex suite of capabilities and software, and it is changing. More client platforms are being supported, or I should say the client platform support is evolving, and we'll have discussions on that. We have exhibitors that will be showing the innovation that TAC enables. There are a few exhibition slots remaining for companies that would like to showcase their prowess in the TAC ecosystem. Because these slots are running out, if you intend to exhibit, reach out to me as soon as you can, because the slots are going away. So, Zev, why don't we go ahead and move on with some of the questions we've got teed up regarding TAC and the topics that will be addressed at CIVTAK.
Perfect. So also want to add that we will be there. We think it's a great opportunity. It'll be our first time in the TAC ecosystem. So we really look forward to that. I'm actually bringing my fourth year ASU Polytech daughter, who is taking a degree in drones with me to learn more about TAC, meet the fellowship, the brotherhood of TAC users, and actually learn a lot from it. So I'm excited for that. Thank you, Ken and Corey, for putting that together. Before I'm going to put the URL for that up in a moment. I just want to let people know that if they want to ask a question, if you have a question or a comment for the panel, please enter it in the comments. And if we have time, we will definitely put it up on the screen. Okay, and then let me just put in the CIVTAK.con URL, and then we'll get right to the questions. There we go. That's in the comments. Okay. So this first question is going to be for Abram. Does the TAC community dynamic change as the CIVTAK user base continues to scale and potentially exceed traditional TAC users?
That's a good question. So in my opinion, and what a lot of, obviously everyone else on this call, I think that the dynamic that changes within the civilian community and what that affects with the actual development, deployment of the TAC ecosystem, I think as it's more streamlined and more adopted across, whether it's here, CONUS in the United States or across the world for any of their law enforcement agencies and first responder personnel, I think we're seeing a very massive shift and a very hard drive at integrating technologies to where originally we didn't see any of that.
To add to that, I am helping many houses of worship and institutions within the Pennsylvania area spin up on TAC and drones. And it's interesting how they want to use those communications and kind of actually introducing law enforcement in some of these small municipalities that haven't heard about it before in order to get on with them and be able to communicate if there is a situation or an issue. So I'm seeing it explode in the commercial sector as well. So very good point. Anybody else have anything to add to that?
I can just jump in with a kind of a comparison to what we've seen earlier in TAC 2 on, as TAC originally grew out on the military side, it went through this same kind of growth spurt, right, where there used to be meetings where there might have been 30 or 40 of us that got together, and then it grew to hundreds, and then to 1,000 or more at the TAC offsite. And so some of those growing pains that you might see as the civilian TAC community really grows and it scales there, I think we've got some parallels that we can connect back to, and maybe some techniques and lessons learned from earlier TAC growth that'll be applicable here with things like this podcast and like the CIVTAK conference being awesome venues to bring everybody together and kind of make it a small world again. So over here.
Yeah, I'll jump in real quick to say I think that you're seeing a little bit of a shift in some of the preferred clients and some of the preferred features because of the involvement of the public safety and CIVTAK community. You're seeing a lot more of a groundswell and demand for obviously, iOS capability and closer to parity and closer to a common user interface. I think you're seeing a lot more pent-up demand for a web-based, lightweight version that meets our needs as well. Hence the offshoot of 2 new cloud TACs, both the Canadian and the Colorado versions. I think you see more demands out of the tax server infrastructure or associated plugins to deal with user management and sort of all the administrative headaches that come with having long, always on, daily operational systems with multiple agencies on it, as opposed to more of like a mission-based, burn it down when you're done type of setup.
Okay, thank you for all of that.
Can I just add one thing? Jared brings up a good point, and I think that the thing that we've talked about has been in the defense side. There's a lot of focus on small team movement within TAC, and I think as we've moved to public safety, you talked about Mike's work with tens of thousands of users. That notion of how do we centralize a lot of things and push data down and kind of have a little more centralized control. I'd say that that's probably the biggest culture shift that we're seeing in this is, we're seeing a lot of tools having to be built specifically to help manage lots and lots of users, because that's kind of how we approach it from a public safety side. But to me, like, I think that that's how that community dynamic's changing, is we're seeing this notion of everybody's building tools of how we can centralize some of this work and this data together.
Could I hop in here? So this is a very exciting transformation that's happening. The embrace of scale with TAC deployments, enabling large regional deployments that drive interoperability between agencies. And on this live stream right now, we're very fortunate because we have representatives from 2 companies that are working to make this happen, those CTI and RTX BBN. It might be worth for you guys to take a moment and just talk about your visions for how the TAC community gains the scale through the efforts that your companies are pursuing.
Yeah, I think that's a good little segue onto it, and this kind of piggybacks off of what Corey was saying. And I mean, Mike, very specifically, he has dropped massive at scale, ecosystems, so that we all know. But at the same time, I think the other thing that we should also look at is that as we move forward with massive enterprise-wide systems for multi-agency cooperation and everything else, a lot of this stuff has been, and really on the DoD side, just putting on that hat, has been done like globally, right? And I think there should be a little more cooperation within the DoD for the law enforcement, government personnel, and things like that, on what is known to work and how we've actually integrated these things all together to provide these common operational pictures, inter-unit workings, as all the way from partner nations and everything else. It's the same concept. It really is. And I know Nate, Mike, and Jared, we've all been in these rooms. Same thing, Corey. We've all worked together, right? And we've seen this, and we've also seen, same thing during Hurricane Milton, seeing whenever DoD starts playing, now all of this data and information, we have the different little layers of command structure, stuff like that. So I really think there needs to be a little bit more cooperation on the government side and on the DoD side on lessons learned to help enable and drive these processes forward. That was what I was going to say.
Yeah, I have a question for you, and I get this question a lot from people as to what other nations are able to use TAC. Is it Five Eyes? Is it 8 Eyes? Is it NATO? Who gets to use it, or is that a confidential item to discuss?
Well, I'm just going to speak on the Distribution A statement, right? So Distribution A is basically, it is open to the public, right? So whether or not a country wants to utilize it, that's up to them. They may even block it. I've been to places sometimes to where they're like, oh, this was developed by the U.S. government. We don't want it on our phones, right? Mm-hmm. So we have to look at those things, and it's very interesting. Now, there's other releases, obviously, on the military side that is not available for other countries to use. So, but anything that's Distribution A that you can see in the Play Store, things like that, yes, they can use it.
So on the military side, it is. I mean, I've heard of NATO countries using it. Are they not using the same military version we are? Are they using that Play Store version?
No, they have to go through 4 military cells for that. Very specifically, any NATO or Five Eye or any partner, quote, coalition nation, they do in fact have, if they need a very specific military plugin or anything like that, then they have to go through the product center and the foreign military sales office to make sure, everything is copacetic, right? Because that's definitely something that they do keep a little bit of a tight hold on. Over.
Thank you for that. All right, let's go to Mike and Nate and talk a little bit about your perspective.
Yeah, I think I'll turn it over to Mike here in just a moment, because I think he's got maybe one of the most exciting pieces in scaling TAC server to touch on here. But I think that the point is a great one, that as we move from small teams to more enterprise style deployments, And as you know, on the military side too, as they move from a counterterrorism mission set to large-scale combat operations, everybody's looking at how do we scale TAC to thousands, tens of thousands, and more. How do we do rapid federation? How do we do user management? All of these things that TAC can do, but historically hasn't been great at scale at. And so, yeah, with that, let me turn it over to Mike, and maybe Zev, if you don't mind pulling up that BBN slide deck, we can jump to the last slide, and as Mike talks about the UMT here.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I can kind of jump around a little bit. One of the things I wanted to mention off of the release stuff too is so we get a lot of questions about, I need the Gov version, I need the MIL version, I don't want the CIV version, and really the CIV version's fine. When I worked for the Bureau, we had the CIV version deployed for all of our devices. We didn't use MIL. There's not really a huge distinction between the different versions of TAC. The open source one that's on the Play Store one gets updated more often than the ones on TAC.gov do. The open source TAC server code that's on the GitHub repository is good enough to get you going. Most people are fine with those. If you have a need for the military tools, then you have to do the FMS case sort of thing to get access to them. That question comes up so often that in our training, we have a dedicated slide to what the versions are, just to kind of explain the different flavors. So, yeah, I'll talk about this really quick. So the Unified Management Tool is a solution to a problem that annoys me, which is how I do a lot of solutions to problems. If I get annoyed by something, I try and fix it. And I'm very thankful that BBN has given me long enough of a leash that I can actually go and fix the problems that I'm encountering and stop things from annoying me. But really what this does, it's a user management tool. We're saying unified management tool because on my roadmap, I want the ability to control multiple TAC servers, to control federation, to be able to bring in other data sources and make it easier. So if you've deployed TAC, if I use any initialisms or acronyms you're not familiar with, just stop me. But if you've used TAC and deployed a TAC system, you know that once they reach a certain point that you can't do it with file-based management, they start to get really complicated. Or if you're not using zip files to provision devices, if you need to use usernames and passwords or use some other sort of complex authentication method, it starts to get more difficult to manage. The way that I have this built out right now, it's fairly simple into its individual components, but I'm kind of wrapping it up into a bundle that makes it easier. It's working with OpenLDAP as the backend, so that's the identity provider. The front end connects to the TAC server and the LDAP and handles the connective tissue for your adding users, deleting users, changing their group membership, changing their channels. It also uses different types of provisioning, so you can scan a QR code, even though I don't like using QR codes for provisioning stuff because cyber reasons. But you can use a QR code to provision devices. You can do that with the LDAP or you just username and password if you want to with the file-based authentication. As of yesterday, I didn't throw that page in here. I think those are the only slides I must have provided. But if you look, oh yeah, I can't point. If you look down underneath where it says quick actions, it's probably a little bit hard to read, but it says certificate enrollment. So I got this working so that I can have TAC server generate certificates and spit them out. So if you have like an aircraft or a sensor or a robot or something else that's TAC compatible, but it doesn't authenticate like a TAC client, using LDAP authentication, you can say, this is my robot's identity and spit that information back out. Again, lots of technical stuff going on here. The entire purpose of this is that when you start to stand up multiple TAC server, well, right now single, but large scale TAC server deployments where you have to manage 100,000 or 10,000 to 100,000 users, I guess, with a large LDAP that doesn't have a dedicated front end. This tool is going to help you fix that. And we're building this specifically for TAC ops stuff, which Nate, if you want to drop the link into our website, I guess that'd be good because there's a post about this on there as well. Just to make it easier for us to manage stuff. But the goal of this tool in the end is to open source it because everyone's encountering the same problem. And it kind of annoys me that we have to keep doing the same solution over and over again to the points already made. It's, we've solved this problem. Let's just make sure everyone kind of continues on with it.
Nate, I have a question for you. When I talk to folks who host TAC servers as a service and others, the comment that TAC is inherently not a very secure platform. It's not that it's insecure, but it's unsecure. Is there, can you speak to that a little bit? Like what's being done to secure it? Talking about the QR code made me consider that, because you're looking at security in that respect. What do we need to know about that? How concerned should we be? How can we bolster it?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I would disagree. I think with the statement that tech is not a secure platform, or at least can't be. I think where the challenge comes in is making sure you've got that configuration right, and I think that there's really a layered approach here. So there's getting TAC secure, so securing the TAC server, securing the end user device, but there's also the networks and the radios and the operating system and all the other software that gets involved here. And any hole in that armor will potentially let someone through. So really need to look at all those layers of the stack. Are you using a VPN? Are you using an encrypted radio? The good news is while TAC server, maybe 5 years ago used to ship with the easiest to start up, but not the most secure settings, that's changed over the years. And now, mutually authenticated TLS connections are the default. And if you want to go to something less secure than that, you have to take explicit action. So there's progress certainly there. The other thing, though, I'll actually turn it back over to Mike just as a teaser here, because I think, Mike's got a lot of experience making sure this is secure for, safety critical, mission critical applications at the FBI in the past. But also, Mike is going to be giving a talk on this very subject at CIVTAK25. So, Mike, I'll hand it over to you.
Yeah, thanks. So, just for clarification, the QR code isn't inherently unsecure. It's just everyone wants to get online the easiest way possible. Printing out a QR code, like I know I'm building into this the ability so that you can print it out onto like a 4x6 shipping label, and then you can slap that to a piece of paper or something, or give that out to someone for really fast onboarding, which is great for disaster response, especially if you're like, I need 100 accounts right now. You can have all these unique accounts, so if someone loses a device, then you can just revoke that one. So that's where it's really beneficial. But if you invite media into your command post and there's a QR code on the wall and the media films that, suddenly you have 1,000 people on your server getting access to your data. So like TAC is, I used to use this analogy with executive management. It's a really bad one, but TAC is kind of like Microsoft Outlook or Microsoft Word, right? It's just the software. It's not the entire system. Your entire system security needs to be taken into account. So you can have just a TAC server unencrypted sitting on the internet. Not a good idea, right? But maybe that's a level of threat that you're willing to accept and the level of security that you need. The other end, you can have TAC running on an air-gapped device that doesn't connect to anything. Also useless, right? But it's the most secure system ever because no one can get to that. And then wherever you need, based off of your threat profile and the security of the data that you are holding, that's where you kind of determine your middle ground. And most people, TLS SSL with data at rest encryption, good enough, we're good to go, right? And that's pretty much where most people fall. You can go a little bit further, make sure that you're in FedRAMP environments, make sure that you are using VPNs on top of that. Like Nate said, you can use encrypted radios on top of that, even type 1 encryption if you want to. And then you can just kind of spool, but that's all management, that's all cost. So you just kind of figure out what makes sense to you, and that's up to whoever that system owner of your system is to determine. Or if you're contracting out, that's for you to work with your whatever company you're contracting with to figure out if it's a risk you're willing to accept.
And the first time I saw that was back in April of this year when I was still living in Scottsdale. I attended Juggernaut's a conference that they had there, and VK Systems was handling the server, and they had a big QR code on a large screen, and everybody was just boom on the server, boom. It was just really quick and worked well. Jared, do you guys do anything with QR codes down there?
We make extensive use of QR codes, and we love them. I mean, the reality of a public safety no-notice event is that you may have dozens of agencies show up. You didn't have time to provision individual accounts or logins or any of the normal stuff you'd love to have. It's not reality. People show up, and you're lucky if they even have TAC downloaded on their client device. For a lot of people, that's the world we live in today. And they want easy, they want frictionless. And also, you might only have 2 minutes with every person before they actually have a job they have to do.
Right.
So we are really laser focused on making it something that we can quickly spin up for a no notice event. And then, we bake in some controls like that certificate that we issue, it automatically revokes within the number of days that we set as administrators individually for that cert. Whatever permissions of groups it can see is also controlled to be, confined to that event. But yes, it's critical to our strategy. It's critical to adoption.
Thank you for that. We do have a question from Ralph. Does the QR code issue address if the comm is over the USB rather than wireless? Who would like to take that?
I can take that if I'm understanding his question correctly. It's regarding the data, the transit or the transport of the data. And the only reason why QR codes make me prickly is that if you don't burn the code after use, then other people can reuse that, and you don't have a way to assure that that identity is the one that's using it, which is why if you're familiar with the IAL requirements, identity assurance level requirements, most systems require a minimum of 2, which is usually some form of multi-factor. But it's the way that I'm kind of addressing this with the UMT. I haven't built it yet, so it's on the roadmap, but I'm going to design it so that when you issue credentials with QR code, it's going to get a specific cert to that QR code, and it will burn that password after that QR code is used. So after a successful handshake, that specific QR code will not work again. The account is fine, the user's normal password is fine, but that QR code won't work. And if they're like, well, I scanned it and didn't authenticate, unfortunately, they need another one. But that's how you get around the some of the issues, in addition to what Jared was saying with short expiry dates, which is another excellent way to do it.
Great. I'm going to just quickly show on the screen the link to get to BBN's TAC section up on the web. So make note of that. It will remain in the comments section as well. I have another question, I guess, overall about computer-aided dispatch in TAC. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Mike or Nate?
I can take that one. So if you don't mind bringing that slide deck back up, there's some screenshots I can point to here. So this is something I think people have been using TAC for to some degree prior to any specific capability existing for it. But something that's under development right now is a computer-aided dispatch plugin for TAC. The way this works is it's a plugin for ATAC, a plugin for WinTAC, and a plugin for TAC server that you can use together. The WinTAC plugin, which we see kind of on the left-hand side of the screen here, is meant to be used by dispatchers. And the ATAC plugin, which you see on the right-hand side there, is used by first responders. And really, this can be a standalone CAD solution for folks, but can also be the bridge between an existing commercial CAD solution and TAC. If you want to be able to move that data back and forth, we're actively building integrations between TAC, TAC CAD, and other existing tools. Active 911 being the first, but there's a whole laundry list in line behind it of integrations we want to put in place. But for those small organizations out there today that don't have a CAD solution at all, or for those no notice events that Jared was referring to, and you just need something that's dedicated to a state fair or to a particular event that's happening, this might be a great solution. And especially for those small organizations, the cost is right. Like, along with pretty much everything else in the TAC space, TAC CAD is free, and as soon as it's fully released, you'll be able to just go and grab that from tac.gov and probably from the Play Store and other locations, and pull down and use it. But you go enter incident information for an incident as it comes in, or import it from a system like Active 911, which you see on the left-hand side there. As that information comes in, you can immediately go and get additional kind of situational awareness from this by looking at things like the Google Street View, which is what you see in the bottom center there, in addition to the traditional TAC-based maps that are on the left. You can manage your personnel and your fleet of vehicles and assign them to an incident, and then tap go, and everybody on their ATAK devices will that's potentially part of the incident will get a little pop-up that either asks them or tasks them to respond to that incident. It'll provide the ETA to the site, and from there they can do things like add notes, change their status to unseen, or track where others are. And it will also give you turn-by-turn directions to get to the scene, either walking or driving, kind of like the way that the vehicle navigation system does, but it doesn't require that to be present. So a CAD solution that is in development now. We've got a version that we're out testing with 3 Air Force and Space Force bases, as well as several civilian public safety organizations. And in just probably a few weeks here, we're going to start phase 2 of this, where we take all the feedback that's coming from that alpha testing, roll it into the tool along with some new features, and from there, hopefully, not too far after, roll it out to the community.
Brilliant.
So Nate,
Nate,
would I be correct in thinking that this is potentially an application that could help with the FIFA World Cup venues going forward, when we have the control rooms of the venue operations, where we've got representatives from public safety as well as the FIFA operational team, that a feed from Active 911 or a CAD system could be used to populate the devices in the control room as well as the security team that's out in the field. Do you see that as having an application in marathons and large events? Yeah,
that's the exact kind of venues that we see for this, among others certainly, but those kind of pop-up events that come and go and bring together a whole bunch of different people who might be using different tools, but might have TAC as the common thread between them. It's perfect for that. And, love to chat later about what CAD solutions might be in play there, and maybe those can be prioritized for some integration here.
Awesome.
Brilliant. Jared, I'm going to ask you to give us some vignettes or use cases or new things that have been happening with TAC over at Texas DPS. Can you tell us some of the wins you've had recently, how you're using it with drones? Or
I would say, the flooding in Central Texas certainly opened a lot of eyeballs about the role that TAC can play on those difficult disaster type days. We put a lot of users on our system in a very short period of time from many different agencies, including, volunteers and all different disciplines of traditional public safety. So I think that was extremely helpful. We pushed the limits of a data sync with, that was still on, now 2 months in, being used to track the progress and history of searches that were being done by teams, recoveries of remains, and all that stuff marked up. So really pushing the boundaries there. And I believe we'll have some people speak about that at CIVTAK. They spoke at offsite about it as well. In terms of new developments, I think right now, the things that we are most excited about are continuing to make the onboarding process smoother. The TAC URL function, to be able to click on a button and then just have the client launch and put your credentials in for you for the end user, is massive for user adoption. I think what people need to know, if they're looking at this on an enterprise or you have grand visions of doing this at a regional or state scale, is you need to set your bar extremely low in terms of what you would like people to achieve. If I could get a large percentage of our users just to turn on the application, it would be of such immense life-saving value and such a massive improvement to the community as a whole that, I would forever be satisfied that I made my impact in the world, right? Whereas, you can do very cool niche plugins and things. Those things are cool, but they don't tend to excite me because they don't move the needle toward that end goal of like having some significant percentage of users show up and it not be a cluster on a chaotic incident. That's what we're used to. That's the status quo.
And Jared, I'm going to ask you to send me something on that offline later, because I'm sure we can use that as we bring folks into the drone responder sandbox. we want to make sure that's as smooth as possible. So I'll ping you after that. Thank you.
Yep.
Zev, could you expand on that initiative that you've got going with drone responders? What's your goal, and how do you see it evolving going forward?
Great question. Thank you. So drone responders really is at the edge of helping, firefighters, law enforcement to use drones. That was their main impact in the world, and they've done a great job. They really proliferated with local chapters and so on. As they see TAC growing and they realize that it's being adopted and needs to be proliferated in an easier way, like Jared had mentioned, I spoke to Chief Werner, Charles Werner, and we spoke about how can we give people a sandbox, a place to play with it and just understand it, and then have live streams on a weekly basis with some instruction, as well as some live streams that are specific to SWAT as opposed to patrol, or firefighting as opposed to wildfire. And so it's going to be pretty robust, and we're pretty excited about it because we're also going to have a knowledge base or a resource center where we're going to have wonderful things like AJ's videos and PDFs, and hopefully from all of you, if you have something that you think will benefit the community, let's get it in there. But yeah, we see that in order to get in, basically, you have to be a Drone Responders member, which is of no cost. So just go out to their website and sign up for it to be a drone responder a member, and then you will have access to this opportunity. If you're an agency, each one in your agency would need to sign in to use it, so you can't have like a single sign-in for everybody to use it. That way we can track better. But yeah, I mean, the goal is that people get their feet wet and they're not scared of TAC, and they're like, oh, I get it. Now I want to learn more. Now I want to bring a training group into my agency, or set up our own training and move forward. So really, it's exactly what Jared said, but more on the, as far as proliferation goes, but more on the interest and adoption side.
Yeah, I think the drone as a first responder deployments have been extremely important, and they are growing, expanding. Unfortunately, the various tools that are available to the departments setting this up tend to use URL links to communicate to the members of the department an ability to see what the drone sees. And in my opinion, there's a huge missed opportunity to provide a mechanism that's handheld that field users can use to see where is the drone, what's the field of view that the drone has, and what is the drone seeing? And with a tool that's interoperable between jurisdictions. So if you have multiple jurisdictions coming together in a pursuit or some other operation, that all participants in the mission can have the same view. And I sure hope that this approach that is being taken by drone responders opens eyes further to the value of having a situational awareness system that's interoperable and not just a proprietary platform for one type of drone.
Perfect. If I could, Jared, I know you probably use the UAS tools. What can you do with UAS tools on the drone side with TAC? Can you take over the telemetry of the device? Can you take over the camera? Can you share the video? Let our viewers know exactly what that affords you.
I mean, yes to all those things you just said. UAS tool provides that. I think the biggest thing that it provides when I talk to drone pilots and why they're interested in it is it's the fusion of data and the ability to kind of do what they need to do as fast as possible without having to juggle different windows. And it's really that air-to-ground coordination piece that I don't think any other suite is solving. And really that's what TAC was built to solve, is an air-to-ground coordination piece. How do I get eyes on target in reference to where ground users are without having to do a bunch of juggling or plotting locations from radio transmissions and the like. It speeds up that time to target, which translates into golden hour life savings or catching criminals or not.
Unbelievable. That was actually our first episode of TAC when we brought Dave Zeter and AJ on, and we started that episode, episode number 1. You can find it in our YouTube or on LinkedIn. why they were interested in it and what motivated them. And it came back to the Granite Mountain hotshots. 19 out of 20 of that team perished because air attack up above couldn't see them through the smoke. Their comms weren't working. And if they would have had an EUD in their bunker, they could have been found and saved. So exactly what you said. Wow. Abram, I want to go to you for a minute and ask you to share with us something that you can share about what TAC has accomplished for some of your clients. And yeah, give us an idea.
Yeah, so
Abram, could you tell us a little bit about CTI and Parsons? Because I think that's a change with Parsons. What's going on with you guys?
Yeah, so CTI was just recently acquired by Parsons. So, and as we all know, Parsons is very big in the DoD and intelligence world, and they actually have a lot of cool stuff. And you guys were just talking about the drone as a first responder, and I'm super excited. Now with the actual SIGINT SAR drone, right? That's super neat. Because I'm playing around with any of the drones and stuff like that. For any type of SAR environment, to send this thing up, because everybody's carrying around cell phones and stuff like that. And now, coupling in all of your FMV and FLIR, you're also popping their SIGINT. And I think that's going to be very huge. And it's, popping it across the ecosystem. Now CTI, it's been around for quite a while. I've been with the company for approximately 4.5 years now. Running, a lot of their tactical comms and training and, TAC server stuff and things like that. And it started off initially as a EW, electronic warfare and SIGINT company. And so now they're also the primary developer for, TACX. A lot of our customers have historically been, the IC as well as DoD, like to USSOCOM and everybody else. So, and it's interesting, especially after being, we were acquired by Parsons, utilizing a lot of their capabilities. Counter UAS is a huge one, because all across the place. That's something that we have to look at, especially NSSE events, things like that, these massive public safety events. Counter UAS is huge, right? Same thing with, bringing over a lot of the mindset, right, of hey, building government open, right? That's the thing. And CTI develops its software very specifically. We don't license it out to the client. We build it and give it to them, right? Because I'm mimicking what the founders, Dustin Helwig, has said. It's like being out on an operation and you're like, hey, I have this proprietary thing here that doesn't talk to this proprietary thing here, and I'm actually on a maneuver right now. That does me no good, and I can't tell you how frustrating that is, and then I'm like, oh, hold on, let me get on my Iridium and try to figure out my life. So CTI has definitely with CIVTAK, right? And I think this is huge, is because what we have seen is over the years, as we have all discussed on this, and what you guys are all talking about, it's like the proliferation of TAC within, the government and the civilian sectors. It's massive, right? And being able to, as all everybody's favorite AJ says, the shared consciousness, right? That's huge, not only for public safety, saving lives, as well as law enforcement, but also for items when it comes to homeland, right? It's like, hey, being able to be fully aware as to what's going on based upon, regional data sets and things like that. All that data goes up, and to be able to have these lines of communication. We're talking, it's been, we just had the anniversary of 9/11, right? And it's still just now to this day, are we getting to a true spot within the US of being able to share data and talk to each other? Think about that for a moment. That was what came out of 9/11. Okay, all these government agencies and DoD and everybody else, we are all supposed to be helping each other. Well, fast forward, it is now 2025. And we are just now getting to a place to where we can actually do that and work cohesively. during the hurricanes and all these what we call Hatter event operations, which is humanitarian aid and disaster response. Like immediately, talking like Corey and to like Jared and everybody else. Hey, I remember like during Milton, we had multiple agencies, first responders, volunteers, everybody jumping on these things. All this data is getting tied together. I was like, hey Mike, what do you got going on? This is when Mike was still at the FBI, and then Jared's like, hey man, we've got helos inbound, right? And to be able to immediately do that real time, tie Jared's and his entire ecosystem into the rescue efforts and everything else that was going on down in these AORs, within like Florida, North Carolina, things like that, and to do it immediately. It took like less than like a minute for me to to do that within the TAC server environment, and bam, there's his whole crew flying out to do that. So I think that is why, in coming from the CTI perspective, we are pushing 1,000%, into this environment, because the need is, we want to see this. We want to help. I mean, this is what, we all do this. We all work in this environment very specifically to make a difference because we care. So there you go. There's my spiel.
That's awesome.
So,
up on the end of the hour, Ken, and I wanted to give you an opportunity to jump back into what are the nuts and bolts of attending or exhibiting at CIVTAK. You mentioned it a bit in the front end. I'd like to get more of that in the back end in case folks weren't there in the beginning. So please get that away.
Yeah. So first of all, this kind of discussion is going to be what happens at CIVTAK. It will happen in the daytime, in the sessions, in the hallways, at the lunch, and then we'll have social activities in the evening with lots of opportunity for lubricated discussion and heated, passionate arguments of how TAC should evolve, how better to deploy it, and to hear more of the success stories, why it makes a difference. Last year when we met, it was during the hurricanes, and it was so inspiring to watch Nate sit down in real time with people at the conference and start standing up the federation capabilities and helping people deploy TAC during the disaster in real time. I am not promising a disaster at CIVTAK25 this year. We had apparently one at the Samsung event, which Samsung hosted a TAC-a-thon, which was really kind of the genesis of this activity several years ago. And apparently New York State had a prison outbreak, and everybody at the conference, or I should say key experts at the conference, gathered and helped solve some of the interoperability issues at that time. So not guaranteeing a disaster this year, but for folks who come, please go to the website that Zev has put up, register. If you are interested, you have a commercial offering you want to highlight, there's a link to put your interest in. Please do that, or reach out to me through info@CIVTAK25.com. But please act soon. We have a hotel block with the Marriott at Metro Center. This room block, it's not huge. Grab your room before that room block is exhausted. And if you have problems getting a room, reach out to me and I will see if I can't get the room block expanded. But act soon. Please get your registrations in, and we look forward to seeing everybody.
Okay, there are also exhibition opportunities. I know we're going to be exhibiting at a table. Do you have any more sponsorship slots open?
There are a couple left.
Okay.
Most of them have been consumed. There are a small number left.
And for those of us who are using tables, that's going to be all around the actual conference room. We're going to have the ability to speak with people when they drop by.
It will not be in the session rooms. It will be in the common area where the coffee is. So
Great. Okay, good.
I'll say one more thing about the conference facility. It is a very modern conference facility with digital recording capabilities. And so the aim will be to capture some of the compelling content in digital form that the TAC Public Safety nonprofit will make available to the community afterwards.
Brilliant.
So this will be an important educational event with a long-running impact after the event ends.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for that, Ken. Thanks all of you for being on today's panel. It was really informative. This will live in perpetuity up on LinkedIn and on YouTube for those who weren't here live from the beginning or at all. You'll be able to access it at any time. And I appreciate you all coming. Thank you very much.
Thank you for making this possible, Zev.
All right. Take care.
Thank you for having me.
And there we go.
Cool.